Hey there, Secret Squirrels. I am Bexus. Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about growing up trans in the 70s, 80s, and beyond. Basically, a bit of my life story growing up as a transgender person. So first of all, I want to quickly say sorry for not posting last week. I had a very brutal 2-hour time in the dental chair, having the roots of a tooth removed. They had to dig them out. It was 2 hours and it was brutal. I was all swollen up for days after it. I've still got a sore in my mouth. So I just wasn't up to recording a video last week. So I do apologize I didn't post last week. I do want to and will try my best to post every week, but obviously life happens. So my trans story, I was born in 1967, and about from the age of 4, I can remember wanting to be a girl. Basically, I wanted to wear dresses. I wanted to play with dolls, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't. When I got to kindergarten, I remember that I wanted to play dress-ups and play with the girls, because the girls would play there and the boys would play over there, and I was told, no, you have to play over there. And I soon learned about gender roles and colours as well, you know, that pink was for girls and blue was for boys, but I always liked pink and blue, actually, the trans colours. So yeah, I learned that from a very early age, and I realised that I had to keep my feelings buried deep inside of me. Obviously back then there was no internet. It wasn't discussed at home, it wasn't discussed in school, it wasn't discussed at all. The only times you would see anything about a man being in a dress or anything like that was on TV in some movie or TV show, and they were always being laughed at or ridiculed. It was never nice. So obviously I'm thinking, well, this isn't right, and it just made me bury my true feelings deeper inside me. So I had a brother have a brother who's 3.5 years older than me. So I grew up very much a boy, and I was pretty, look, I had this inner turmoil, but I was a happy kid. I played footy, I played cricket, did lots of, boy stuff. We'd rough house and everything like that. I grew up as a happy kid, but I did always have this inner struggle, and when I could, back then I was home alone a little bit here and there, and I'd try on mum's clothes even though they were miles too big for me. I'd put on a skirt and things like that. So I remember doing that. It was weird times, but I was always drawn to being feminine. So one day when I was around 7 years old, I think it was, while my brother was at Sea Scouts, my mum came home from work with this new curling iron that she'd brought. So they were just new back then. They were the long ones that had the barrel with the little clip, and you'd put water in the barrel, and then you'd wrap your hair around it and squeeze the end, and the steam had come out. And mum brought one, and as often as I could as a little boy, I always wanted long hair, and at that stage I had longish sort of hair. I would get forced to cut it every now and then, of course, and it would be rather funny because my mum would say, "You're starting to look like a girl," and that would just make me smile. I'm thinking inside, well, that's the point, but sort of kept it hidden. But anyway, mum curled my hair when I was about 7 years old. My brother was at Sea Scouts, which he went every second Friday from memory, and I loved it. Just having this sort of mother-daughter time, it just felt so right, it felt so natural. And then from then on, not often at all, but every now and then, she'd do things like paint my nails, or she'd curl my hair and things like that. We had a few very special and memorable mother-daughter moments that are absolutely dear to my heart, that are very private. Mum and I never discussed them with anybody. I obviously didn't want my brother knowing, neither did she. My dad was never in the picture. He was just an abusive alcoholic. He was just never there. My brother was almost like my father figure to me, and it's the reason why I was so close to him. So look, yeah, I grew up very much a boy with a little few girly moments when I could steal them, but knowing that it wasn't right and not knowing what gender dysphoria or being transgender was, I just kept it hidden deep, 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 deep inside me. And I learned to do that very, very well. So recently I found a lot of my old school photos. I don't have a lot, but I found a few of them. I put them together in a bit of a collage. And the thing that hit me when I did that, I noticed that I've gone from this happy kid, and puberty hit, bang! I was sad, I was miserable. The photos from when puberty hit when I was 13 and 14, and you'll see this when I play it, I look so sad. You can see it in my eyes, and I remember it wasn't just I was having a bad day when the full school photos were being taken. It was a bad period of my life. It was very, very hard. My dysphoria, not that I knew what it was, just hit me so hard and so bad, and it was tenfold, and it made it harder to suppress the feelings that I had. So I'm going to play that video for you. So here we go, 1975, grade 2, or 7 years old and toothless, and then 77 we skipped to. See the long hair? Got short there, but that's 78 when I was 10. Grade 6 in 1979, 11 years old, still a big smile. Year 7, first year of high school, big smile in 1980. And then bang, puberty hits. I was 13 years old, and also the next year, I just never had that smile again. So you can see there, that really like hit hard when I saw those photos, just seeing it. I remember those times, it brought back those memories. High school was very difficult for me. I didn't know, obviously, even then what gender dysphoria or being transgender was. The only thing I knew about men or boys was what I'd seen on TV. I've discussed that. But at least seeing them on TV, I knew that I wasn't the only one, I suppose. You know, I wasn't alone. For a long time, I thought I was the only one. I did discover some books, some adult books, I suppose, of transgender or transsexual people, and they were very sexualized books. So that even confused me more. As going through puberty and having all these feelings, I discovered that there were people like me out there, but they were meant to, you know, please men and stuff like that. And it made it worse or even more confusing for me, because I was never attracted to boys or men. I never wanted a boyfriend, but I thought that's what I should do. So it just confused me more. I was just always attracted to girls. I still am attracted to girls. So growing up, obviously when I was a bit older, I took the most of any opportunity that I could to be dressed as a girl. So if there was a birthday party that was fancy dress or something like that, I would, not always because it would become too obvious, but often I would dress as a girl, and I loved it. So I was dressed as a girl once for New Year's Eve. That was actually quite by accident. And I remember a staff party. There's a photo there from when I was working at the Gallery nightclub, and the dress theme was Rockstar. I was going to go as George Michael, but a friend of mine said, hey, you should do Shania Twain. I've got, you know, this and that. And I'm like, perfect. Actually, I was more like, no, please don't dress me as a girl, but I really wanted it. And of course I got it. Every time I got to dress as a girl and be in public, I loved it. I felt at home. It felt right. I went to Melbourne once and went out as a girl for the first time in clubs, and that was absolutely heaven. I looked horrible. You can see that in the photo. I looked absolutely terrible, but I did that. So in 1991, I married a beautiful woman, and we had 2 wonderful sons. This was obviously all before the internet, so it was before I knew about gender dysphoria or being transgender. My wife ended up discovering my secret. She found my secret stash of clothes and girly things. So look, it didn't go down really well, but it could have been worse. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened or what we did. That's personal and private between myself and my ex-wife. I will give her credit to how she took it though, and she did do her best. That's all I'll say on it. Google didn't arrive on the scene until 1998, so it was after that that I discovered who I really was, that there was a name for it. I was transgender and I had gender dysphoria. So I realised then it was a huge weight off my shoulders. I wasn't the only one, I wasn't alone, and it was actually a good feeling to know that. So finally knowing who I was, what I was absolutely fantastic. I come out to just a few girls that I knew, not very many at all, just some girlfriends that I felt I could trust, and I picked them right because I could trust them. It was great. So there was one in particular that I used to go to her house. She'd do my makeup. She was brilliant at makeup, and I'd dress for the afternoon. Even a couple of times we went out shopping and things like that, and it was absolutely wonderful to be out in public as me. As horrible as I looked back then, when I look back at the photos, I'm like, oh my God. And there's a photo of me back in those days in a terrible wig and good makeup at least. She was really good because I didn't do it myself. So I would dress as often as I can, but it still wasn't very often at all. So fast forwarding to 2008, I left my second wife at the time and I moved to Kalgoorlie, a mining town in the middle of nowhere in Western Australia. A very rough blokey town, and I did some blokey jobs. I was a tyre fitter in the mines. I worked as a furniture removalist as well. I was a fairly fit sort of person. I'd done martial arts for a lot of my life before then. I was a black belt in one style, brown belt, black tip in another. Martial arts had been a massive part of my life, and I hope to get back into it one day. I actually miss doing martial arts. So it wasn't until 2014 when I moved to the Gold Coast, where I'm living now. different apartment, same building actually, that I decided that I have to set Becky free or basically die. It was pretty much that. Like I had some suicidal thoughts, as pretty well every transgender person does at some stage, I think. Very few wouldn't have them. And unfortunately, a lot do it. So I moved here to the Gold Coast in 2014. On the way, because I drove over, I dropped my sons off at their mum's place in Victoria. I would go out. I was living with my brother for a while until my son moved up here. But I would go out on the rare occasion that I could get dressed up, and I would. I went to some seahorse dinners and out to the local LGBT nightclub here a few times. I started organising girls' nights, which was great fun. So I slowly but surely started to become who I am today. Then there was that fateful day. So it was June the 22nd, 2015. I was having dinner at a burger place just over the road there with my eldest son. And I was sitting there just thinking, today's the day. Today is the day that I have to tell him. I have to, it was just driving me. And we're having dinner and I'm working up the courage, just working up to tell him that I'm transgender. And I was getting there, I really was. And then the little shit stole my thunder. He looked at me and he said, "So, Dad, tell me about Becky." And I just lost it. I started crying immediately, and I'll never forget it. He grabbed my hand and he just said, "Dad, it's okay. Honestly, it's okay." So he had discovered my secret, and we spoke, and I cried quite a bit. There was a few tears. I'm starting to tear up now, thinking about it. It was wonderful. It really was. A huge weight off my shoulders that he knew. So obviously we discussed it a fair bit that night, and as I said, there were a lot of tears, mainly from me. And we discussed it further over the next few days and months, and then on. We still discuss it here and there, just not as much because it's full time now. I wanted to tell my son, my youngest son, should I say, but I wanted to tell him face to face. So my son was still living in Victoria with his mum then. So I waited till I was with him to tell him. So I was visiting him a month later. So it was on July 27 the same year I came out to my youngest son. I waited, as I said, till face to face. He was great, a little confused, but he told me he loves me no matter what. Still the same person. And basically, as he's put it then and many, many times later, he said, "I don't give a fuck. You're still my dad. As long as you're happy, I don't care." So he's got that great attitude. He just doesn't care. Just wants me to be happy. So he's fantastic. And now he and his fiancée have given me two beautiful granddaughters who I absolutely adore and who love and accept me as well. It's fantastic. I'm very lucky. I'm blessed in that respect that I have my sons and my granddaughters. As many times as I tried to tell my brother, I just could never get the words out. I'd get a few beers into me and I'd be like, okay, I have to tell him tonight. I just couldn't do it. He was the hardest one for me to tell for some reason. I don't know why, but he was. Maybe because I thought his reaction might not be the best. Where I always thought it was a risk telling my sons, but I had to. But I actually thought that their reaction would be surprised and okay. My brother, I just couldn't tell. And in the end, I took the coward's way out. I wrote him an email. July the following year after telling my son. So pretty much a year after I told my sons, I finally told my brother through email. It took me a few days to respond, which he did. And basically in his response, he said, "Look, this is a huge shock. Wow, just wow," he wrote. I remember that. And he said, I just need some time to process this, but you're still my brother. I still love you." So that was good. But from then on, we hardly spoke at all. We didn't speak much at all. In fact, now it's been close to 2 years since I've seen him or spoken to him, I think. I've texted him a few times. His birthday was early May this year. Text him a happy birthday, bro message. Hope you have a great day. And I even wrote in it, "It'd be really nice to hear back from you. Just even a thank you would be nice." But again, I never got a single reply. So a little while after that, I actually ended up deleting his number out of my phone. So If he ever come back to me and wanted to reconnect, I would absolutely welcome him back with open arms. I love him. He's my brother. I miss him. But for now, unfortunately, I'm done with him. So moving forward a little bit more, I scored a job in a call centre here on the Gold Coast for one of the big four banks. I got the job as a boy and I left as a girl. So like I told quite a few people at work that I was trans and I wanted to come out basically. And I was encouraged, like the acceptance was fantastic and everyone encouraged me. So each Friday was a casual day and occasionally they would have a fancy dress day and I did my usual, I took advantage of it. So one of the fancy dress days was the 90s theme and I went dressed as one of the Spice Girls as well as a few of the other girls that worked in the office, and I went as Posh Spice. So back then my hair was about this long, I think. I was just starting to think I could stop wearing wigs when I went out. Maybe about that long. There's a photo. So I had my hair straightened and I went as Posh Spice, and then for a while every Friday I went dressed as a girl to work, and then people were saying to me, why don't you just come every day as Rebecca? You're so much happier. We prefer you this way, which is wonderful to hear. So I did. So for a while I was going to work as a girl and I was living at home as a boy, because at that stage my oldest son, who was living with me, was really struggling with it. He was trying to accept it. He was doing his best, but it's a huge thing for your dad to become a woman. So we worked through it bit by bit and slowly. You know, I would go out at night and I didn't have to hide it anymore that I was going out as Beck. He could see on my clothes horse there'd be dresses and bras hanging from the clothes horse, things like that. During this period as well, I did start on hormones as well, so things got a bit emotional for me. Very turbulent time, but also amazing going through these changes in my body, knowing what it was doing and seeing the changes like breast development and my hips and butt growing, my skin getting softer, things like that. So it was absolutely wonderful, but also very emotional. So I am a lot more emotional than what I used to be, obviously. As a guy, I was pretty calm and collected. At least I thought I was. But I know I'm a lot more emotional. But I've never, ever been happier. I used to be ashamed of who I was, that I was transgender. I was absolutely ashamed. Now I'm proud of it. Like, I'm part of 0.6% of the population that has lived as both genders. And that is amazing, and I'm proud to be transgender. I love to support and help my transgender brothers and sisters. I do a fair bit for the trans community here on the Gold Coast, and I'm proud of that. So yeah, life is great, apart from the emotions. It really is fantastic. I'm so happy with my look. I've got great C-cup breasts that have grown naturally. I would like a little bit bigger maybe. I'm just waiting to get my surgery done down below. Nothing I'd love more than a vajayjay. I will get it, but it's about $24,000. So I have to save a bit for that. Anyway, so here I am today, a happy and proud transgender woman. I have the love of my children. I have 2 beautiful granddaughters. I've only lost a few friends. I'm a lot better off than a lot of trans people. They lose their families, they lose their spouses, they lose their kids, they lose their homes, their employment, their best friends. I've only lost a few friends, not many at all. So I am a lot better off than most, and some of them even do lose their lives. I've had 2 suicide attempts late last year. I think I've put that right behind me. I really have. I don't think I will do that again. I've learnt from that experience. Thankfully, I'm still here to tell that story that I've had that. So that's pretty much my trans story as quickly as I could do it. I'm sorry if it has dragged on a bit, but it's hard to put over 50 years in just, a half an hour or so on video. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I didn't bore you. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. I am trying to hit 100 subscribers. I'm just over 50 now. I need 100 to get my URL, and that is important to me. So hit the subscribe button. If you want to get notified of when I release new videos, hit the bell button, little bell icon, and please feel free to leave comments below. I will try to answer every comment that I can. Thank you very much again, and I will see you all next week. Bye.